今天，美国总统川普签署了一项重大公告，恢复了太平洋地区超过50万平方英里美国水域的商业捕鱼权。简单讲，渔民们终于可以重新进去捕鱼，这对当地的经济来说是一大好消息。而受益最大的美属萨摩亚居民为表感谢，还为川普献上一串花环。这种花环其实是当地传统文化的一部分，通常是用来欢迎尊贵宾客或皇室成员的。当下，川普就开玩笑地问了一句：“那我是不是皇室成员了？”引来一阵笑声。
Signifies royalty in our culture.
So does that mean I'm royalty?
You are royalty. You are royalty.
You just got blessed.
That's very nice.
Thank you so much.
So,
Jobs.
send me some tuna.
Definitely.
Mr. President, breaking news. A short time ago, the Supreme Court agreed to hear oral arguments in the case about ending birthright citizenship. How confident are you that the court will rule in your favor and allow that order to end birthright citizenship to go forward?
Well, you're just telling me that for the first time. I am so happy. I think the case has been so misunderstood. That case, birthright citizenship, is about slavery. If you look at the details of it, the signings of it, everything else, that case is all about slavery. And if you view it from that standpoint, people understand it. But for some reason, lawyers don't talk about it, the news doesn't talk about it. That's not about tourists coming in and touching a piece of sand and all of a sudden they're a citizenship. They're a citizen. That is all about slavery. And even look at the dates on which it was signed. It was right at that era, right after the Civil War. And if you look at it that way, the case is an easy case to win. And I hope the lawyers talk about birthright citizenship and slavery, because that's what it was all about. And it was it was meant to be positive. And they use it now instead, not for slavery, they use it for people that come into our country and they walk in and all of a sudden they become citizens and they pay a lot of money to different cartels and others. It's all about slavery, and if you look at it that way, we should win that case. Okay.
Mr. President, we have a great relationship with the President of El Salvador. Will you ask him to release Abrego Garcia so that you can facilitate his return here to the United States? And do you believe he deserves due process here?
Well, I must tell you, I have to refer again to the lawyers. I'll have to do what they ask me to do. I had heard that there were a lot of things about a certain gentleman, perhaps it was that gentleman, that would make that case be a case that's easily winnable on appeal. So we'll just have to see. I'm going to have to respond to the lawyers.
Mr. President, we're learning that there are now 2 deceased following that shooting at Florida State University. Following and amid that, is there any changes that you want to see to gun legislation? Anything you see broken with gun laws in our country?
I'm going to have to look. I'm a big advocate of the Second Amendment. I have been from the beginning. I protected it, and these things are terrible. But the gun doesn't do the shooting. The people do. It's a phrase that's used probably too often. I will tell you that it's a shame. I'm just hearing about it now. I just hear about it. I know the area very well. I know the school very well. I know everything about it. It's Florida. And we'll have more to say about it later.
What do you mean when you say there will be more to say about it?
Only in terms of what happened. As far as legislation is concerned, this has been going on for a long time. I have an obligation to protect the Second Amendment. I ran on the Second Amendment, among many other things. And I will always protect the Second Amendment.
Mr. President, question about the United Kingdom. Reports that you're going to go and stay with the King in September. Can you confirm that? What are you looking forward to?
Well, I was invited by the King and by the country, great country, they're going to do a second, as you know, a second fest. And that's what it is. It's a fest, and it's beautiful. And it's the first time it's ever happened to one person. And the reason is that we have 2 separate terms, and it's an honor to be, I'm a friend of Charles. I have great respect for King Charles and the family, William. We have just really just a great respect for the family, and it's a very great honor that, and I think they're setting a date for September.
It's going to be a smaller visit initially, and then a bigger state visit to follow after. Is that the plan?
Yeah, they say that it's going to be, I don't know how it can be bigger than the last one. The last one was, as you know, was incredible. But they say it's going to be even more important. So it's a great honor to be so chosen.
President Trump, yesterday you spoke with Japan. Is the Nippon steel deal part of the tariff negotiations? Did you discuss that with them?
It could be, but I doubt it. I mean, I think we're going to view it separately. We want U.S. steel to remain in the hands of the United States and people from the United States. And great respect for Japan, but we don't want a foreign country buying U.S. steel. U.S. Steel was one of our great companies of the world. When you go back 80 years, and it was the biggest, strongest, most powerful company in the world, and we're going to make it very strong and powerful again without Nippon. But if Nippon wants to come in, and I hear they're working on it very hard, I have great respect for Nippon Steel. I know a lot about it, but they can invest and they can do lots of things, partnerships, but we want to have U.S. Steel remain in this country.
So is that a stipulation you would put on these tariff negotiations?
I guess we could talk about it with regard to tariffs, Howard. I mean, it's something that could be a part of it, but tariff negotiations are actually simpler than that. I mean, we're going to set a number and people are going to pay that number, or they're going to decide to go elsewhere if there is such a place. There really is no elsewhere, I think.
Mr. President, in the first term, your Attorney General apologized to Tea Party groups who have been targeted by the IRS under the Obama administration. Why is it okay for the IRS to now be looking at changing the tax status of Harvard because of policy disagreements you have with the university?
So, I had dinner last night with a lot of pastors and ministers and people of faith, and there were like 32 of them, and it was beautiful in the Blue Room, and they said, "Sir, I was targeted by the IRS, and the FBI came in, sir, and I've been going through hell for years." And somebody overheard that statement, and they said, "Oh, that happened to me too." Another one overheard, "Oh, that happened to me too." It was the Biden people, and they had 7 or 8 of them. We're going to be reporting it very soon. I said, this has to be reported. These are ministers, pastors, evangelicals. They were targeted by the Biden administration, which was a disgraceful administration. Well, I was targeted more than anybody in history. I think you probably know that. I hope you admit it, but you might not. But I was targeted more than anybody in history. But it was interesting because one pastor told me, and another one heard it, "Oh, me too, and me too, me too, me too." All of a sudden, they're all, and one of them spent all of his money, everything he had on lawyers, for 3 years, he said. It took place almost immediately after the election. After the election, when Biden came in, unfortunately for the country, sadly for the country. So when you ask me that question, I immediately say, let's switch it around to tell you what happened last night. And not only that, we're also finding that many people just having to do with Trump support have gone through hell. And they've used the IRS for purposes of something that's very illegal for them to have to do.
What are you trying to
It's a
achieve?
it's a very, very illegal thing to do what they did. And I think it's such a shame. That was long what?
If that was wrong, why are you considering changing the tax status of Harvard?
Because I think Harvard's a disgrace. I think what they did was a disgrace. They're obviously anti-Semitic, and all of a sudden they're starting to behave. But when you see what they were saying, what they were doing, when you see the way they took care of events, when you watch that woman, that horrendous president that ruined the image of Harvard, maybe permanently, in Congress, in the halls of Congress, when you take a look at what happened there, it was horrific. And, I've looked at a lot having to do with it. I'm not involved in it. It's being handled by lawyers. I read about it just like you did. But tax-exempt status, I mean, it's a privilege. It's really a privilege. And it's been abused by a lot more than Harvard, too. By a lot more than Harvard. So we'll see how that all works out. I don't think they've made a final ruling. I don't believe they've made a final ruling, but it's something that these schools really have to be very, very careful with. Very anti-Semitic when you take a look, whether it's Columbia, Harvard, Princeton. I don't know what's going on, but when you see how badly they've acted, and in other ways also. So we'll be looking at it very strongly.
President Trump,
On
you
that
also-
subject, on the tax-exempt status subject, what are the other groups you'd like to see that status removed from? Could we expect an exempt?
Well, we'll be making some statements, but it's a big deal, and they're so rich and so strong, and then they go so bad. They've earned so much by being a member of this country, a member of this group, this beautiful group of people in this country, and then they go and they abuse their power like that. I think it's very sad.
Are we talking about immigrant rights groups, environmental rights groups?
Could be. I mean, look, environmental. I have a group named CREW. You ever hear of it? I think it's CREW, and they have a guy that heads CREW. It's supposed to be a charitable organization. The only charity they had is going after Donald Trump. So we're looking at that. We're looking at a lot of things. But if you take a look at CREW, what they've done, and I think it was a very big abuse, but we're going to be finding out pretty soon.
Can you explain the disconnect between your conversations with President Xi, when those potentially could happen, and why they haven't happened yet?
Well, you don't know whether or not they've happened.
That's my question.
Yeah, I mean, I've never said whether or not they've happened, but I have a very good relationship with President Xi, and I think it's going to continue. And I would say they have reached out a number of times.
Xi or they?
Well, the same. I view it very similar. It would be top levels of China, and if you knew him, you would know that if they reached out, he knew exactly. He knew everything about it. He runs it very tight, very strong, very smart. And yeah, we're talking to China.
So they've reached out in recent days or recent weeks?
Excuse me?
They've reached out since the 145% tariffs?
Oh yeah, sure.
Do you believe
A lot.
Do you believe
a lot all the time? We're talking.
Have you spoken to him directly, to President Xi?
I don't want to say that. Yeah. It's just not appropriate.
But you're speaking,
Sorry, has he called you directly, President Xi, or reached out to try to facilitate a conversation?
Well, you'd think it was pretty obvious that he has, but we will talk about that soon. It's not that important because honestly, we're going to have a deal. I believe we're going to have a deal with China. And if we don't, we're going to have a deal anyway because we're going to set a certain target and that's going to be it. Do you have anything to say about that, Howard?
I think our tariff policy around the world has every country in the world coming in and talking to us. It is incredible. We had country after country in yesterday. We are confident that we will work out something with China, and the president knows what he wants to do, and I think he knows it better than anybody else in the world, and we are confident that this is going to work out well, both for the United States of America. I'm sure he'll work it out with China, but the amount of other countries who are working with us is incredible, and I think it's really going to work for the American farmers, for our ranchers, for our fishermen, for our businesses. The scale of companies coming to America just every day, like even this morning we were talking about Whirlpool, and then we were talking about car companies opening. The scale of factories coming to America is mind-boggling, driven by Donald Trump's tariff policy, which has got the world coming and finally respecting the United States of America.
President Trump, you said
And by the way, there's never been anything like it. We have at least $7 trillion of new businesses coming in. If you go back and look at others, I mean, in years they wouldn't do anything like that. So, and this is in a matter of weeks, so it's been pretty amazing.
You said we're talking, so China and the U.S. are talking
Yeah.
on tariffs.
Oh, sure.
Do you believe then that they won't go higher than 125%? We've heard Chinese officials say that. And like, what happens if they do go higher? Do we retaliate more?
Well,
than
at a certain point,
145?
I don't want them to go higher because at a certain point, you make it where people don't buy. So I may not want to go higher, or I may not want to even go up to that level. I may want to go to less because, you want people to buy. And at a certain point, people aren't going to buy.
How far
And you
along
And
are
it's
these
actually up.
discussions?
It's actually up to 145% because you have the 20.
You previously said that you would consider reducing tariffs on China to get a tic-tac deal done. Is that still on the table as of now?
Well, we have a deal for TikTok, but it'll be subject to China, so we'll just delay the deal till this thing works out one
If
way or
they
the other.
say-
And I think it's a good deal for China. The TikTok deal is very good. TikTok is good for China, and I think they'd like to see us do a deal, especially the deal that we have pretty much done with some of the best companies in the world.
If they agree to sign the deal, would you take that into consideration?
I think it would be
when
something
talking
we
about reducing
discuss because
tariffs?
it's a natural. If we're making a deal, I guess we'll spend 5 minutes and talk about TikTok. It wouldn't take very long.
Can you give us a sense of how far along these negotiations are with China? Are they in the early stages, or are you inching closer now to actually making a deal on tariffs?
I think that we will make a deal with China. I think we've had some very good talks, but we will have some very good talks remaining. And, you know, I view it, and some people say, oh, rush. I think we have a lot of time. I think we have plenty of time. But we have very, very good, you saw Japan was here yesterday. We had Italy today. We had a great conversation with the Prime Minister. We've had very good talks yesterday with Mexico. Talking with everybody. You know, the problem is it's only so many hours in the day. I think we're going to make a deal with China. We're going to make a deal with everybody. And if we don't make a deal, we'll just set a target, and we'll live with that, and it'll be fine too.
How much time do you think you have?
I would think over the next 3 or 4 weeks, I think maybe the whole thing could be concluded. You have to understand, we're a big, if you think of us as a big, beautiful department store before that business was destroyed by the internet. We're a big, beautiful store, and everybody wants a piece of that store. China wants it, Japan wants it, Mexico, Canada, they live off it, those two. Without us, they wouldn't have a country. And everybody wants a piece. And at a certain point, if we don't make a deal, we'll just set a limit. We'll set a tariff, we'll set some parameters, and we'll say, come in and shop. They may not like that, and they may find it, or the market may find it too high, you know, more likely the market, but the market may find it too high, or the country may find it too high. Then they'll come back and say, well, we think this is too high, and we'll negotiate, or they're going to say something else. They're going to say, well, let's see what happens. But they always have a right not to do it. So they can say, well, we don't want it, so we're not going to shop there. We're not going to shop in the store of America. We have something that nobody else has, and that's the American consumer. And I had the most successful 4-year period in the history of this country, and I think we're going to blow it away this time. But there is a little bit of a transition, and we're going to have that little transition, and it's not much of a transition. You know, if you look right now, we're getting 25% on cars, right? We're getting 25% on steel. We're getting 25% on aluminum. We're going to have some other things that we're going to be adding in the not too distant future because we want them to be made here. The medicines, the drugs, pharmaceuticals are going to be done, and computer chips, etc., etc. And because of that, we have the biggest computer companies in the world coming in from Taiwan and other places, and they're building in Arizona and lots of other places. We're number one in AI by far. We're leading China by a lot, by tremendous amounts. We're going to supply electricity at levels never supplied before. They're going to build their own electric. We're going to let them become a utility, essentially. And it's going to be amazing for the country. They're going to build their own electric plants. We have to double up our electricity to remain number one in AI. We're going to have to double up our electricity take our whole country. We're going to have to double up our electricity. Think of that. And probably even triple it up. And we're going to let them build their own electric plants with their plant that they're building for the AI or whatever they're doing. Never been done before. We're going to get them quick approvals. It's going to be very clean, going to be very nice. And we're going to get them very fast approvals. And people are investing in this country like they've never invested before. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you, Fred. Thank you, Fred. Thank you. We're headed out. Thank you, guys.